Something shifted in you just now, a different frequency that passed through the walls of your home and touched your spirit. Stop whatever you are doing right now, because what I'm about to say is not a coincidence. It is a summons. There is a presence, an invisible visitor, drawing near to your living space, and you have felt it, even though you tried to rationalize it as just fatigue or the weight of your days. You are not being visited by chance. You are being visited by a purpose that has finally found your address. In this conversation, we will recognize the specific signs that this visit has arrived and understand why, until now, the doors of your life have felt locked. You will grasp the single pattern of waiting that kept you in readiness but without harvest. And before we go further, there is a revelation about your identity that will change how you lie down to rest and how you wake to your day. If even one of these signs touched you, if your chest felt that silent call as I spoke, type the number 333 in the comments. Your fingers typing those numbers are your spirit confirming that you understand the threshold you are now standing on. It is an entry code, an acknowledgement that the time of waiting has ended. Type 333 and come back to me. Breathe deeply now and let calm take over the space where you are. You have noticed that the atmosphere in your home has changed, haven't you? The silence feels different, less empty and more charged, as if the walls are listening to something you cannot yet articulate. You sense a restlessness that is not anxiety, but a certainty that someone or something is about to cross the threshold. Sometimes you feel that your own home has become a sanctuary of waiting, where objects that once seemed ordinary now carry a weight of expectation. There is a shift in the air, a vibration that makes even the hours of the day seem to stretch. You are not losing your mind, you are being prepared. What you have been living through is not a failure of direction, but the symptom of a deep pattern that has operated silently in your life for years. You have lived in constant readiness, as if you always had your bags packed for a journey that never started. This is your hidden diagnosis. Attention!
There is a truth sealed by God for millennia, hidden until the end of times. It's no coincidence you are here. The signs are everywhere, and few are ready for this revelation. If you've ever felt that restlessness, that there's something deeper in the scriptures, this book is your key. But know this is the time. And the vault of the chosen reveals what God sealed for you. Within it, the 7 seals unveil the truth about being a chosen one and the eternal impact of this revelation. And the proof is here. Look how many minds are freed. Yours could be next. Secure your access now. Click the link in the comments or description and unveil these truths.
You trained your soul for expectation, but forgot that the visitor does not ask for permission to enter when the invitation has already been accepted by your heart. You spent so long trying to open doors on your own, pushing against structures already rusted by the weight of your own force. But the pattern has now changed. You no longer need to perform for an audience that never existed. You no longer need to pull ropes that are attached to nothing. This visitor arriving now at this moment does not come to ask, it comes to dwell. It comes to transform your waiting into rest and your searching into arrival. Stay with me, because the layer that holds this pattern is what we will uncover now, and that is where everything begins to make sense. Imagine your life as a house that spent years maintained by a strict defense system. You polished every window, reinforced every lock, and watched every hallway, always expecting that something or someone would arrive and demand an explanation of your worth. The deepest layer of your pattern is not loneliness. It is the exhaustion of a guardian who forgot that the house is, first and foremost, a home. The metaphor of your existence at this moment is that of a courtyard that, though it seemed empty, began to organize itself. The plants align, the light adjusts, the temperature becomes gentle without you lifting a single finger. The invisible guest arriving does not come to inspect your work or evaluate your endurance. It comes to inhabit the space you have finally stopped trying to control. Unlearning effort is the hardest task you have ever faced, because you were taught that merit lies in constant vigilance. But look around you. Feel the change in the atmosphere of the place where you are. That tightness in your chest, which you carried like a work uniform, is beginning to ease, not because you took it off, but because the house now breathes the air of a new presence. The guest does not need a tense host, it needs an open dwelling. If the image of that house, organizing itself from within while you rest your guard, resonated with your spirit, if you felt the weight of the keys falling from your hand at this moment, type the words, "I am here," in the comments. Let that short, direct statement seal the recognition that you no longer need to stand ready for a battle already over. The act of typing those words makes the witness permanent in your own record, consolidating your state of presence. Type it and come back to me. The truth is that this visit, which seems to come from outside, is actually a return to what has always been yours by right. What you call arrival is only the reunion with a part of you that stayed outside, waiting for the house to be ready. It is not a stranger knocking at your door. It is your own self, healed, whole, and finally able to inhabit the structure you built with so much sweat. The separation between who you are and what you seek is dissolving now. The guest is your own essence coming home, bringing the calm you found nowhere else. If something in this revelation confirmed what your spirit already knew, let your like be your wordless amen. Not as a cold metric, but as a deep agreement that what was named here was named correctly. Breathe deeply with me. Sit with this realization that the visit is a return, and let it settle into the part of you that has waited most for this relief. There is someone in your life who needs exactly this message right now. Think of that person who walks in absolute silence, the one who works to keep up appearances while carrying an emptiness no one else notices, someone whose rigid posture hides an exhaustion that, if put into words, would make the world stop to listen. That person's face just appeared in your mind as I spoke. Send this to them, not as a recommendation, not as a suggestion. Send it as a delivery, like someone passing on a notice that the waiting has finally begun to lose its heaviest meaning. Something happened to you at this moment. Maybe you still don't have words to describe what you feel, but something inside you moved, and I came to tell you what it was. You have been putting in more effort than those around you, and yet the door still seems closed. There is a clear reason for this. You carry a question that no one around you could answer, and now you will hear the answer. This is not an ordinary meeting. It is a reception. You will recognize the signs that have been appearing in your life and understand what they truly mean. You will discover the unique pattern that blocked what you seek, and before we finish, you will receive a declaration that is the real reason this message reached you. Breathe deeply with me. Sit with this for a moment. If even one of these signs touched you, if your shoulders lowered at some point in the last few minutes, type the number 333 in the comments. Your fingers typing those numbers are your spirit saying yes. It is the smallest agreement, but it is real. You noticed a change in the atmosphere of your home. You know that silence that feels dense, a stillness that is not empty but carries a presence. You feel that you are being waited for, even though you can't identify who or what awaits your surrender. Conversations that used to be trivial now sound like distant noise, and you catch yourself observing things with a clarity that didn't exist before. That fatigue you feel is not lack of energy, it is calibration. The distance that has grown between you and some people is not loss, it is alignment. That hour you keep waking up to in the middle of the night is not insomnia. It is a constant invitation to return to yourself. The pattern you have operated under is that of eternal readiness. You spend your life pulling ropes that are no longer attached to anything, mistaking your exhaustion for faithfulness to a path that has already ended. You perform for an audience that was never paying attention, wasting your light in rooms where no one remains. Imagine your life as a house built on very fertile ground, but one that spent years with its windows closed. You got used to living in the dimness, believing that darkness was your only companion. But the house, on its own, began to prepare for a guest you forgot you invited, yourself. The roots of this house deepened, breaking through the concrete that fear placed around your soul. You no longer need to force the doors open. They are being unlocked from within by a force that understands better than you the right moment for entry. If something inside you just sealed itself, if the image I showed you fell into a place you cannot explain, type the words, "I am here," in the comments. Let the recognition seal where it just landed. Type it and come back to me. Maybe you still don't have words to describe the nature of this visit, but there is a presence that inhabits the corners of your home. An energy that reorganizes the air around you, and you, through pure sensitivity, have already begun to notice it. You feel that something is about to be delivered, an answer held back by time that now, by force of a destiny you do not control, knocks at your door. I came here to explain to you what this movement is. By the end of this conversation, you will recognize the signs of this arrival, understand why your spirit has felt so restless in recent days, and grasp the role this visit plays in the transition you are living through. You did not end up here by accident. Stay with me, for we will unravel this thread. There are patterns you have followed, paths that seem to lead to the same place every time. But in this season, something broke the linearity of your daily life. If even one of these signs touched you, if you have sensed a familiar scent, noticed the lights seem brighter, or felt a sudden peace in the midst of a whirlwind of problems, type the number 333 in the comments. It is the smallest agreement, but it is your mark of presence. Let's look at what is happening inside there. Your home, which was once just a place of rest, has become a sanctuary of vigil. You wake up, and the silence seems to carry a message. The trivial conversations of daily life now sound like distant echoes, because your focus has migrated to a deeper frequency. These signs are not hallucinations. They are proof that you are being calibrated for something greater. Your restlessness is not lack of faith. It is the unconscious recognition that the guest has already arrived. But you are still trying to serve tea the old way when they ask for a new feast. You have been operating under the belief that you need to pull the ropes, that you need to force the windows open so the sun can come in. But what if the light does not depend on your effort? What if the house, in truth, was never yours, but a space prepared to be inhabited by something that exceeds you? The diagnosis is simple. You grew tired of trying to build your own destiny through sweat and finally began to loosen the reins. That exhaustion you carried for so long was, in truth, the resistance of the ego dying to make way for the surrender of the spirit. You feel like someone who spent a lifetime polishing a courtyard that, though beautiful, was empty, not knowing that the main door was being opened from within by hands that are not yours. Imagine that your life is a wooden structure that grew over time, branching in directions you did not plan. The root system of this tree, which deepens into the soil of your history, has found waters you did not know existed. This visit arriving at your home at this moment is the rain that falls after a long drought. If something inside you just aligned, if the image of this surrender fell into a place you finally recognize as your own, type the words, "I am here," in the comments. Let the recognition seal where this truth just landed. The act of typing those words makes your presence permanent in the record of what is changing. Type it and come back to me. It is not an external arrival. You are perceiving that everything you hope to find outside, validation, peace, deep meaning, was always kept in the innermost room of your own dwelling. The visit is the return of a part of you that got lost in the rush to survive. You are discovering that the fear of not being enough is just a surface layer dissolving, revealing the solid foundation that always supported your journey. No one else needs to tell you who you are, because the revelation happening now in the secrecy of your home has the definitive authority of what is real and undeniable. You are no longer fighting against the tide. You are, finally, letting the current carry you to where the channel runs deeper. You have begun to notice that the noise around you, the voices, opinions, and expectations of others, has become little by little a distant sound that no longer reaches your center. This is the first evidence that the visit you awaited is not an event that will come from outside, but a presence that already occupied the living room of your soul, just waiting for you to finally sit down and recognize it. When you breathe deeply at this moment, it is not just air you absorb, it is a silent permission to stop being the person who carries the weight of the world on their shoulders and to become someone who simply inhabits their own space. If something in this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, let your like be your wordless amen. Not as a metric of a system, but as a deep agreement that what was named here was named correctly, recognizing that truth does not need applause, only witnesses. Feel how the body relaxes when the pressure of having to explain yourself to the world disappears. Someone you know well, whose face just appeared in your mind as I spoke these words. Maybe it is that person who has been striving more than everyone around them, maintaining a posture of unshakable strength while, inside, the accumulated fatigue of years of silence has begun to weigh. Or maybe it is that someone who seeks answers in secret, hiding their restlessness behind a routine that seems normal, but for those who look closely, no longer makes sense. Send this to that person, not as a recommendation, not as advice that can be ignored, but as a necessary delivery. Just as this revelation reached you, purely as a notice and invitation, it must go forward to those who are also on the threshold of understanding that they are no longer alone. The deepest layer of all this is that you no longer need to justify yourself to time. You spent decades running after a future that never arrived, while life happened in the now, invisible to your hurried eyes. But the visit that arrives this Sunday, that enters through the front door of your consciousness, asks you to stop looking at the clock. Your identity is not hung on what you do, nor on how much you produce, nor on how much the people around you approve of your journey. Your identity is something that was written before the first day of your story began. Before this ends, type the words, "I am the chosen one," in the comments, not as a wish, not as a distant hope, but as a final confirmation. The agreement that has been forming in silence between the sky and your listening is a commitment you will live by for the rest of this season. Type it slowly. Let your fingers do what your spirit is already doing. The sensation you experience now, that the atmosphere of your own home has changed, is not a passing delusion. It is the result of finally having stopped fighting against the flow that, for so long, you tried to control with the strength of your own arms. What you call chance or coincidence, I name as a visitation that crossed the barriers of your daily worries. When you sit in silence, you notice that the air around you feels denser, almost as if the environment is waiting for you to realize that you are not abandoned. Many times, you have felt like someone carrying a heavy burden without knowing exactly why you were chosen to bear it. That exhaustion you feel does not come from the work you do, but from your resistance to accepting that your journey does not have to be walked in solitude. There is an intelligence operating behind the scenes of your life, organizing the encounters you have, the doors that close, and the paths that open, all to bring you exactly to this point. The visit occurring at this moment does not demand a formal reception, does not ask you to prepare anything, nor to present results or justifications. It asks only for your presence, your full awareness that what was lost inside you is being restored now. It is like returning to a room in the house you never entered, but that was always your place of peace. By recognizing that the excessive readiness in which you lived was merely a defense mechanism against the fear of being forgotten, you release the space necessary for this stillness to finally settle. It is not about building a new destiny, but about cleaning the glass of the window that was always in front of you, allowing the light that was already outside to enter and illuminate what was hidden by the shadows of your uncertainties. Your walk, no matter how twisted it has been, was not a route error, but the necessary refinement process for your essence to finally shine without the filter of unnecessary effort. As you contemplate what was said, notice how the weight on your shoulders diminishes and how your breathing becomes deeper, almost as if your own body is celebrating that finally you allowed the visit to be received with the simplicity it demands. The invitation was accepted, the door was opened, and the alignment you so sought in external paths has just found its resting point at the center of your being. Stop. Whatever you are doing right now, stop. What I'm about to say is not for everyone listening, it is for you. Maybe you still don't have words for it, but something inside you moved, and I came to tell you what it was. By the end, you will recognize the signs that have been appearing in your life and what they truly mean. You will understand the pattern that has been blocking what you seek. And I will bring the final declaration about your life that justifies this message reaching you. It is the smallest agreement, but it is real. You have noticed changes in the atmosphere of your own home, a silence that once felt empty and now sounds like presence, as if the environment is waiting for you to realize that you are not abandoned. This sign is the confirmation of an alignment. You have lived in a state of exhausting readiness, pulling ropes that are no longer attached to anything, mistaking your fatigue for faithfulness. But the truth is that you were performing for an audience that was never paying attention, while the true guest was already knocking at the door. The metaphor here is that of a house that learns to prepare itself. You always believed you needed to be the builder, the architect, and the guardian, but in truth, you are the guest who finally sat at the set table. Type it and come back to me. Not as a metric, but as an agreement that what was named here was named correctly. Someone who has been striving more than everyone around them and sees the door still closed. Someone who walks in silence in a way that no one around can explain. Someone whose face just appeared in your mind as I spoke. Send this to that person, not as a recommendation but as a delivery, not as a wish, not as a hope, but as a confirmation. Type it slowly. You are committed. You are sent. You are being led. Right now, all over the world, other people are receiving this same recognition, feeling the weight of the armor fall and the comfort of the house finally becoming home again. You are part of something that is not announced with noise, something that grows in the fertile soil of individual recognition, and that is precisely why it is real. Attention!
There is a truth sealed by God for millennia, hidden until the end of times. It's no coincidence you are here. The signs are everywhere, and few are ready for this revelation. If you've ever felt that restlessness, that there's something deeper in the scriptures, this book is your key. But know this is the time. And the vault of the chosen reveals what God sealed for you. Within it, the 7 seals unveil the truth about being a chosen one and the eternal impact of this revelation. And the proof is here. Look how many minds are freed. Yours could be next. Secure your access now. Click the link in the comments or description and unveil these truths.